Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gateway TV, Gateway Gazzette program. We broadcast live every Thursday from our London studio at 8:30. This is News and Views channel, and we highlight the news from around the world. Today's topic is worldwide problems of immigrants. My guest tonight is Mr. Maurice Jones, ex-civil servant, counselor and research officer of EPPG. And my other guest will join me later, Mr. Wilson Chaudhary, Chairman, British Pakistani Christian Association. This program can be watched on YouTube live, www.matvchannel.com. And we are very sad to announce this week's news. What had happened in Quetta, Pakistan, while the militant Islamic State groups claimed responsibility for one of the deadliest militant attacks in the country in recent months. Officials in Quetta said the carnage was carried out by the Lashkar-e Jangvi al-Alami, a sectarian organization, in what appears to be drip feeding of information by officials. The death toll from the late night gun and suicide assault on the ill-fated police training college, Quetta, kept rising until it stopped in the early hours of Tuesday morning with grim statistic 62, an army captain and paramilitary soldier. 3 militant also lay dead, with 2 of them having blown themselves up. This is not the first incident happened in Quetta or in Pakistan. These incidents happening from the last 15 years without stopping. According to officials, over 160 others survived the terror strike with varying natures and degrees wounds. Hospital sources said that the condition of 12 injured policemen was serious. The interesting thing is, in this news is, that Islamic State has taken the responsibility. I will discuss later in our program in details. But the good news from the Sindh High Court on Thursday ordered the Sindh government to shut all the liquor shops across the province. I'm talking about Sindh in Pakistan. The High Court was disposing of 2 legal petitions seeking closure of illegal liquor shops in the province. The court also ordered authorities to cancel license of all liquor shops operating in the province and issue fresh license after detailed scrutiny. The petitioner, Shahryar David, a resident of Karachi, pointed out to the presence of 15 illegal wine shops in the city. During the hearing of the case, police also submitted a report affirming the allegations that several liquor shops were operating in violation rule. Meanwhile, representatives of Hindu, Christians and Sikh community also appeared before the court, saying that consuming liquor on occasions other than specific religious festival is prohibited in their respective religions. But I would say it is not in our religion. And as mentioned earlier, that Islamic State has accepted the responsibility. However, Pakistan, the officials of Pakistan has always denied the presence of IS in Pakistan. Why Pakistan denied this news was Daesh claims responsibility for Pakistan police, and this news was in Turkish newspaper Daily Sabah. Militants wearing suicide vested stormed a Pakistani police academy. No Daesh in Pakistan, says Interior Minister, and this was in February, in middle of the February. No Daesh in Pakistan, says Interior Minister. On December 31st, 2015, as the world was gearing up to celebrate the New Year, news broke in Pakistan that 20 people from Lahore, including women and children, have traveled to Syria to join ISIS. So these are the facts. Many people have died, many people have lost their lives. Unfortunately, our media updated us, Pakistani media updated us that we won the war. If we have won the war, why these killings happening every day? My guest tonight is Mr. Morris Jones. Mr. Morris is working tirelessly for the persecuted Christians. We have association from the last 7 years. Very soon, Mr. Wilson Chaudhary will join me. He is here. He is going to join me soon. Morris Saab, I welcome you in our show. And जैसे कि as I updated that ISIS has taken the responsibility. This terrorist attack is not the first attack. These are continued from the last several years.
Yes.
What do you say about this?
Well, several questions come to mind immediately. As you know, that Pakistani army has been quite successful in overcoming the terrorists in the northwest frontier and that area. But in Balochistan, unfortunately, the terrorists have been targeting minorities, and this time it's mostly Hazaras and Shias minorities. Now, there are several questions which come to mind. First of all, why was the security so lax? If there were police training centers, there was just one soldier standing outside and no security at all. There are other issues as well. Several times the terrorists have attacked the police academies before, and no lessons seem to have been learned. Even the walls hadn't been built around the facilities. I think the press is asking these questions.
Morris Jones, could you please tell me about APPG, how it works, what are the members, who are the members and how it works?
Yes, John, as you know, the APPG stands for the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Pakistani minorities. And our chairman is Jim Shannon, who is a member of parliament from the Northern Ireland. And in the parliament, there are lots of different APPGs, dealing with different topics, different countries, even different sports. And you were very instrumental as well in creating this. And it's been about a year since we created this APPG. It highlights the issues of the Pakistani minorities, and we have MPs and the members of the Lords and some bishops as well, and we have over 30 members now. And you will be pleased to know that it contains members of all the different parties: Conservative, Labour, SNP, in fact, every political party is represented in it. And we've been going for about a year. You and Michael Messi Saab and Javed Gill, we all worked and tried to formulate it for about 2 or 3 years. And as you know, we went to lots of MPs and Lords, and finally it is materialized. You asked about what sort of work is it doing at the moment. We've sent letters to the embassies of Thailand, Malaysia and Sri Lanka, raising awareness about the issues of the Pakistani minorities who've sought refuge there. And it was, at one time, they were being threatened from being sent back to Pakistan. And we've tried to highlight to them that these people are suffering in their countries, quite often wrongfully blamed for blasphemy, and there is no way they can be sent back. If they are sent back, their lives will be in danger, not only their lives, but their families' lives as well. And we are going to have a meeting with the Thai ambassador, but as you know, their king died recently, so they haven't, they're, I think for about 1 month, they are not holding any meetings. But we will highlight it to them when we see the ambassador. Apart from that, we are seeking a meeting with the Hungarian ambassador as well. As you know, that Hungary is one of the few European countries which is willing to take the Christian persecuted minorities. In fact, that's the only country so far in Europe. And we want to talk to them about the Pakistani Christians as well and Pakistani minorities as well. Apart from that, we've been raising awareness among the MPs and the members of the Lords about the persecution of minorities in Pakistan. We're sending them bulletins regularly so they know what's going on. We're also contacting the Pakistani politicians as well and hoping that they will be able to raise the issues themselves in Pakistani parliament. So the work is going on at lots of different levels, and we are seeking meetings with the Secretary of State for Department for International Development, and we've also put some parliamentary questions to the DFID as well, Department for International Development. And the forthcoming project is on the hate material in the textbooks. And I've just drafted some letters for Lord Elton and Church in Need, I think. We are hoping to work together on this issue. Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Morris, my other guest, Mr. Wilson Chaudhary, is very much here, and we would like him to be here with us so we can also raise some questions regarding immigrant. He recently, we are going for a short break, and we'll come back because he's very much here. We would like him to join us in the show so we can also discuss, because he recently visited Australia and embassy here in Hungary embassy, so he can also update us little bits about this. We are going for a short break. We'll Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My second guest, Mr. Wilson Chaudhary, has joined the program right now. We were discussing, our today's topic is, we have earlier discussed worldwide problems of immigrants. So I discussed with Mr. Morris what they are doing in the parliament, what APPG is doing. Now we are going to talk about specifically, Wilson has recently visited Australia, and but I have a news, at least 3,800, this news is taken from BBC website, at least 3,800 migrants have died or are missing in the Mediterranean Sea in 2016, the deadliest year on record, the UN Refugee Agency has said. It said this was despite a significant drop in migrant crossing compared with 2015, when 3,771 deaths were reported. Dozens of unaccompanied minors were left in the jungle camp in Calais overnight, despite French officials declaring the camp now empty. Aid workers says about 100 young people slept rough, but the head of the religion government said it was 68. Fabino Berciu also claimed some of those who remained overnight were not originally from the jungle camp. Nearly 5,600 people have been moved. So this is the situation of migrant. Wilson, thank you very much for joining us, and we welcome you to our show.
Thank you.
You spent several weeks in Australia talking to politicians there about the plight of Christians in Pakistan. What is the result?
I spent 10 days, not several weeks.
Okay.
It was a very fruitful trip. I mean, before I went to Australia, there were only two meetings that were organised, one with Senator Abetz and one with MP Andrew Hastie. When I got there, it was amazing. Literally, these are all Christian MPs and Christian senators, but Senator Abetz invited me to a prayer session the following day. I said a prayer, moved a few hearts. Several senators and MPs met with me straight after the prayer session, including the Minister for Immigration. Senator Betts guided me through the process. I met with MP Kevin Andrews, I met with MP Andrew Hastie, MP Peter Dutton, the Minister for Immigration, and two other senators. We managed to get an agreement in principle for a quota of 100 Pakistani Christians to be taken from Pakistan safely into Australia. There is some provisos. Obviously, as a group, we're going to have to ensure that we've got the sponsorship for them, which will include a bond.
Sorry, Wilson, could you please just clarify, are they going to take from Pakistan or from Thailand?
Not from Thailand. This
Not
will be
from Thailand.
directly from Pakistan.
Okay.
Because obviously those that are in Thailand are deemed to be safe. Despite the re-persecution in Thailand, it's not it's not life-threatening, them being in the IDC, and they do come underneath the banner of the UNHCR as registered asylum seekers. So for Australia to intervene isn't quite that simple. But yes, we will be able to take directly from Pakistan 100 asylum seekers, not just this year, but for every preceding year also.
And could you please tell us, Australian has started a new pilot scheme that can be used to help Pakistani Christians to safety. What is and how it is work?
Well, the pilot scheme has an allocation of 1,000 asylum seekers every year that can be granted asylum under a sponsorship program. Participating groups who are accredited, which we would be, will be required to provide a bond. I'm not sure what the figure is yet. We're still going through the proposal stage at this stage. It will include having to provide rental accommodation for the asylum seekers or family. It will require food, providing sustenance, so clothes and other material goods that they may need to survive, but also to help them into employment, to make them understand civilian laws and various other aspects of living in Australia, including the English language for those that find it difficult. And so it's a long project, and our proposal has to ensure that it encompasses all of this before we can be accredited.
And the number 1,000, these are for Christians, Pakistani Christians, or for everyone?
No, the allocation we have is 100. So there'll be 100 Pakistani Christians, but that's actually 10% of the entire allocation. It's quite significant.
And the 1,000 allocation is for Pakistan?
No, the 1,000 allocation is for minorities. So that would be Yazidis, could be Yazidis, could be Hindus.
Okay.
I very much doubt it'd be Muslims, although if Muslims are minorities in a particular location where they're being persecuted, then the argument is they, in essence, too, I assume, could be encompassed within that. But the priorities for Australia have mentioned in Parliament were Yazidis and Christians.
And tell us specifically your meeting with Eric Abts and Minister for Immigration, Peter Dutton. You met with both of them. How was your meeting with them?
These are Christian men, so it was very positive. I mean, they, as I've said, they agreed the allocation. Senator Betts, straight after our meeting, that same day, said a speech in Parliament talking about the persecution in Pakistan, and in particular calling for freedom for Asia Bibi, which was very heartening because he'd obviously listened very carefully to the notes that we've made. He's also ensured that a copy of our publication, which we're going to be launching in Parliament on the 2nd of November under the auspices of the APPG, and I invite people to come along to that if they want details. I'm sure we can share that at the end of the meeting. He submitted that report to the Foreign Office so that they can start to apply that, perhaps to use their foreign aid budget to leave a change in Pakistan. And so again, another victory really in a very short trip. And I mean, on the very last day, I met with the Minister for Justice for New South Wales, so a provincial Minister for Justice. He kindly put me in touch with various Australian media, and we had articles in the Australian media, and they've never had a Pakistani Christian themselves quoted in these papers. In fact, on the very last day of my trip, just before I flew back, I appeared on Sky TV.
Yes, I saw
Australia. So, and I think that was just amazing. God definitely moved, and you know, I went there ill-equipped, but I knew that God would empower every step we made, and He did so.
And Wilson, just tell us, because I know that you have been visiting Thailand and some African country and Europe. Who has invited you for this trip?
I was sponsored by an Australian man who works in Thailand helping Pakistani Christians out of his own pocket. He felt that because the Australian Pakistani Christian community isn't yet coordinated, it's quite small, that they needed a bit of professional support, and felt that we could help push their campaign forward. Obviously, when I went in there with the meeting with Senator Betts, I prayed beforehand, and I felt as if God said to me, ask, see if you can get a quota, and I just threw it into the conversation. Wasn't expecting much from it, and it was amazed at how quickly Australian politicians were willing to help and support. I think for the first time they learnt the true frustrations and persecution that Christians suffer in Pakistan, and it moved them both emotionally and physically, and moved their minds in a pathway where they were, you know, desiring to help. So just very, very pleased about how God was able to make a short trip so effective.
Yeah, that's very good. I will come back to you, and I have some questions for Mr. Johns. How can APPG help Pakistani minorities?
Well, John, APPG is basically to raise awareness among the Western or more British politicians about what's happening in Pakistan. And quite a lot of them didn't know very much. So we're sending them regular information, regular bulletin. And as people become more aware, like Wilson said, sometimes they become shocked at what's going on. You know, for example, this hate material in the textbooks. People are just amazed that in 21st century, at this time, this kind of material is being put in the books. And the result, which not only affects the Pakistani minorities in the sense that they come out of the schools feeling lesser than the other people, but the sense of superiority which seeps into the majority community, which gives rise later on to the abduction of ladies and rapes and so on. That all starts from the childhood. When you start teaching a child you are better than anybody else and that other is inferior to you or worth nothing, what do you think that will have the effect of? You know, that when the person grows up, naturally he presumes he's the best and the others are not worth anything. So these kinds of things are still shocking to the Western mind, and that's God has given us an opportunity, and Wilson and you and everybody, and we are making people aware of these things. And I'm so glad, because until a few years ago people didn't even know about the Pakistani Christians, that they even exist, let alone what sort of persecution they suffer there.
Mr. Morris, just tell me something. You mentioned earlier that you are also sending communication to some parliamentarian in Pakistan. How they are contributing and what would be their roles if they are here?
Well, John, we know and we appreciate if there are any changes going to come. Our community is very small, and it will be with help of the sympathetic MPs from the majority community as well. And there are MPs and politicians who take considerable risk and speak out for the minorities. And our basic aim has been to let them know that they are not isolated, and we appreciate them. And the risks they take, we appreciate that. So we've been in contact with them, and a few MPs have come back to us, and we will be holding meetings with them, and hopefully we'll move forward on different issues.
So Wilson, you got some assurances from the senators, from the member of parliament. They will take 100 people from Pakistan. When this process is going to start and how this is going to work?
Well, the current project program, the pilot program, is from 2016 to 2017. So we're probably going to have to jumpstart this sometime in 2017. So it will take at least another 6 months. But again, we still have to get our proposal in place. So we need to get offers for people who would, maybe in Australian Pakistani Christians or just Australian Christians who are willing to give up rooms in their house to house these asylum seekers. We'll need support from maybe other charities that are working in Australia to help with employability skills, getting these people back into employment, helping with English courses. Some of it we'll fund ourselves. I mean, the good thing about the British Pakistani Christian Association is over the last few years we've managed to build up quite a large donor base. So we're able to fund projects of sizable, of larger size. For instance, we're about to build a school for enslaved children in Kasur. And you know, we've bought the land and we're just going through the final planning, and hopefully construction will start sometime within the next 2 months. We're looking for complete build for a school that will serve 1,000 former slave children, I should say, and help them to rebuild not only their lives but the lives of their families. So it's all a matter of time and conjecture at this stage in time, but the more help and support we can get from people living in Australia direct regarding housing, the less of a burden we are on our donors, meaning that we can use those funds for other projects such as the safe houses or whatever else we're doing in Pakistan.
And Wilson, the very important thing is who is going to select 100 people from Pakistan? That's a very, very important question. And how?
Well, this isn't for families and friends, so it's going to be real, genuine asylum seekers. And again, the BPCA is equipped. We have 6 permanent officers now working in Pakistan. They will be involved in the vetting. They will then have a direct conduit with the Australian embassy out in Pakistan, meaning that they can apply for Australian visas with efficiency and ease, and that will be the process that we follow. Now, generally it will be, if we hear about a blasphemy victim, we'll get in touch with them and say, look, we can get to Australia, would you like to go? We'll then go through the process of getting all the evidence together, the FIRs, the newspapers, etc., vetting, interviewing the individuals, submitting the documents to Australian embassy, and then as the process ensues, they will be then provided with tickets which we will have to fund, and a medical assessment that we would have to fund, and then enter into Australia, where then the support network begins. For the first year of their stay in Australia, it will be our responsibility to ensure that they have shelter, food, clothes, and access to other facilities.
Just tell me, and I will also ask you, Mr. Morris, this question again. Asia Bibi's case is echoed around the world. What was their reaction? Because the court court had to take actions, and unfortunately, the case has been adjourned. So, how was their reaction? And you tell me your experience here in the Parliament. First you, and then Mr. Morris.
The reaction from
the Australian people, from the Australian parliamentary.
Well, Senator Betts raised the question in the Senate House on the day after, on the very same day that I met him, which would be Tuesday, the 19th of October. And then Andrew Hastie last Tuesday said a question in the House of Representatives. So we've covered the lower and the upper house in Canada. Politicians understand about the situation of Asia Bibi. They are calling for justice and freedom for Asia Bibi. I'm almost definite that, Asia Bibi can get asylum in any country. She's a very clear blasphemy victim. She is persecuted, there's no doubt to it, and her family, and their lives would be in danger in most nations where there's a Muslim majority. So of that, there's no concern. But the very fact that they've raised it and they've highlighted it is very pleasing, because I don't think it has been raised particularly often in Parliament before. I'm not even sure it has. Both Andrew Hastie and Senator Betts did mention the British Pakistani Christian Association, so people are aware of our group, and I have noticed that hits from Australia on our website have increased significantly. In fact, our petition for Asia Bibi jumped from 12,000 to 16,000, close to 16,500 within 3 to 4 days of my visit to Australia, meaning that we've probably gained a significant number of Australian supporters for Asia Bibi. I mean, these people will then get locked into our distribution, so that they'll now start to learn about Asia Bibi on a regular basis, and other victims. So we've done what we can, and we've appeared on Sky News. Sky News is quite well read. When I returned back at the airport, 6 people recognised me from the news. They took leaflets from me, and they've agreed to distribute them in their church. Yeah. So we've done what we set out to do, probably a lot more than we ever envisaged. So praise God and thank him for, I thank him greatly for turning, as I said, a very small trip into something immense.
Yeah, that's right. And Mr. Morris, just tell us that, have you been able to discuss with the parliamentarian here
yes,
regarding Asia's case?
John, I think in the UK the case is very well known. I don't think there's any MP who doesn't know about this case. And of course, they know that what's happened so far. But one interesting thing somebody raised with me was that they realized that she's suffering so much in the prison, and injustice which has been done to her. But at the same time, the fanatical reaction to her possible release was so intense that mention was made that the Pakistani Christian townships might have been in danger, and maybe for the time being it's best if she's safe and kept inside the prison until a suitable time when she's quietly released. But there are dangers, we have to look at that as well. There are dangers for the Pakistani Christians as well if she's suddenly released. But yes, the British politicians, I think they know all about this case.
Wilson, before I come, as people have asked me to raise this question to Wilson, because Wilson is joining you in our program, they are very much concerned about the Christians in Thailand. You have visited 2 times, and 1 time you have taken BBC with you. Just tell me, you recently met the consular of the Hungarian embassy, Alexandra Petu, in Thailand last week to discuss the plight of Pakistani Christian asylum seeker. How was your meeting? And we would want to know what are the outcome and how.
Okay, Alexandra Petu, it was very favourable, to be honest. So she invited us to have a longer discussion than I expected. She's agreed already to work towards getting me a meeting with the Foreign and Trade Office in Hungary and their Home Office with respect to ensuring that Pakistani Christians are included within their quota for asylum seekers. Hungary is the only nation to have prioritised Christian asylum seekers. That's very genuine. However, over 1,000 Pakistani Christians have already applied for asylum. I think they're shocked at the numbers. They weren't expecting it to be that large. But then again, they won't be aware of the fact that there's at least 4,000 Pakistani Christians living in Thailand.
Who have applied?
No, only 1,000 so far. But I'm sure as people watch this program, and I'm sure as they start to read our website, I've just sent an email out today, so it may have hit your emails already. As people realise, I'm sure more and more will go to the Hungarian embassy. However, the programme is not yet set. So there's no allocations. They don't know how many numbers they're going to be accepting. They don't know how the process will work. It's in its nascent phase. It's still being designed. So people applying will have to wait some time. But it is genuine, and my recommendation is that as many Pakistani Christians as possible get themselves to Hungary. I will travel to Budapest as soon as I get an opportunity, and I will obviously paint a picture about how bad the persecution is in Pakistan. Our 567-page report, which is being launched in Parliament on the 2nd of November. Look at our website. 1st of November, sorry, at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, people can come, the entrance is free. Is going to be submitted, has already been submitted to the Foreign and Trade Office. Alexandra Pito hand-delivered that herself after my first visit. I met with her twice while I was out in Thailand.
Can I ask something to Wilson as well? Wilson, the other countries in Eastern Europe, like Slovakia and Czech Republic and Poland, I think they're quite sympathetic to the Christian persecuted minorities as well. Do you see any forthcoming time when they might be taking some refugees as well?
Poland agreed to take only Christian refugees a while ago. They had a program, they tried to do it. Unfortunately, the community didn't feel the same way as the government. Many of those Christian refugees that went to Poland ended up having to go to Germany because they weren't being given jobs. They were being quite prejudiced, unfortunately. As a consequence of this, those that went back to Germany were actually eventually sent back home. Czechoslovakia, yes, they've all said that none of them have openly declared priority to Pakistani Christians.
Viewers, we have Dr. Peter on the line, and he has a question for us. Hello, Dr. Peter. Welcome back.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak to
Yes, he's
Mr.
listening.
Chaudhary?
Yes, Mr. Wilson Chaudhary is listening to you.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi there.
Wilson, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
You have created history by creating an arrangement where people from Pakistan, 100 every year, can go to Australia. I congratulate you, and although your style of work is sometimes unconventional and different to what we do, I admire you for your courage, for your stamina, and for your smile.
Thank you very much.
Now the question. How will you identify 100 sponsors in Australia every year to help 100 Christians in Pakistan?
Again, this will be done through a range of mechanisms. So our email distribution is huge. We have a distribution of over 36,000. So when I send an email out, it goes across the globe fairly quickly. Of that, I would have thought by now we have at least 5,000 who are from Australia. Not all of them Pakistani Christian, Australian Christians. We're in touch with churches now, and churches have already indicated that they wish to support the programme if we're successful with the bid. And so it will be a mixture of homes where people will give space to these individuals, or churches where accommodation will be given, or through our donors as well. If need be, I'm definite we should be able to source funding for building or renting accommodation to support these Christian families. Again, the very fact that it's 100 every year means it can be done piecemeal and worked upon each year as a 100 quota for each year. Don't forget as well, we only need to provide the accommodation for the period of 1 year. So that does make things slightly easier. After that, hopefully all these Pakistani Christians will be in employment. If they're not in employment, then we would, I believe then it becomes a state responsibility, because we would have fulfilled the 1 year sponsorship that we promised in the beginning.
Dr. Saab, is that...
How can we in Europe, because this program is going to be seen everywhere in Europe, how can we in Europe assist, support, and also endorse your efforts that you're doing? You're doing a great job. And how can everyone help you?
There's quite a few ways. Firstly, we always ask Pakistani Christians of any ilk or any area to pray for the group and pray for the work that we're doing. Secondly, sign our petitions. By signing our petitions, you're automatically endorsing our work. It means we have a mandate to do what we ask for and to challenge governments, etc. When we have protests, it would be great if Pakistani Christians in the UK came and joined us, and I am holding them internationally now. We've held protests in Australia, France and other places where we try and galvanise support for the local Christian frameworks in the lands where they are, helping them establish roots and start to be recognised so that they too can challenge. And again, donations. Without donations it's very hard as a group to survive. Our dependency has been on white and black Christians who support us. It's very rare for Pakistani Christians to fund us. In fact, I can probably count on the back of my hand. Well, I can count. There has been no Pakistani Christian support in finance from the UK in the last 4 years. We do get Canadian Pakistani Christians who are generously donating to us, and we do get some from Australian Pakistani Christians. But other than that, there are some American Pakistani Christians too, but from the UK at the moment support does seem to be minimal. It would be great if we can all work together to try and galvanise not only support for the BPCA but for the other groups that serve our community here, because I just feel that divisions here are limiting the community's success.
Thank you, Wilson. Thank you, Dr. Saab.
I need to congratulate you, John, for putting together such a wonderful show.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to John Morris for being with you. I think you have collected the icons of our community to work with you on your mission. The mission is to promote the Christian persecution in Pakistan, and these two good people are those that are working towards this aim. Morris's contribution is to create the all parliamentary Christian organization. I don't have the right word for this, but that's neither here nor there. It's for everyone to see, and I congratulate John Morris, you and Wilson Chaudhary for putting out such a wonderful show tonight. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much. Viewers, that was Dr. Peter J. David, our Chief Executive of Gateway Television. Our program today is Worldwide Problems of Immigrants. Now I come back to, we have discussed about the, sorry, you haven't got the mic, but Dr. Saab is appreciating what we are doing. Wilson and Mr. Morris, we are coming back. The problem, the immigrants' problems have started two decades when the persecution started in Pakistan. So now I'm coming back to because we only have 30 minutes in our program. My question is that the terrorism in Pakistan has not stopped, despite the fact our Pakistani army and the other forces are fighting with the terrorists, but the terrorism is still there. We have the recent incident of Quetta where 62 people have died and many people are injured. This is continued from the last 20 years. My question, Mr. Morris, for you, where Pakistan is going, who will find the solution for all these problems? Is Pakistan going back in the early days when Zia was there, when the jihadis were active? So what's happening?
I think one difference is the Pakistani army has been getting rid of quite a lot of terrorists, and I think that is going to continue. But I think it's much more deep-rooted. Unfortunately, in the Pakistani society, the extremism has gone much, much deeper. And the society itself has become so much intolerant. I remember when I was growing up, the situation was much, much different. And there was nobody going around killing people or making troubles for the minorities. I sometimes think that it's going to take decades, if not longer than that. But we leave everything in the hands of God, and we pray that Pakistan will get rid of this terrorism. But it's difficult to see the solution at the moment.
And Wilson, if I will come back to you with the same question, what do you say about this?
We're in a very difficult situation with Pakistan. Obviously, 4 bomb attacks in 4 years, 700 Christian girls kidnapped, raped and forced into Islamic marriage every year. That's a statistic produced by a Muslim group, not a Christian group.
Not Christian.
If you ask Christians, we'd say the figures are in the thousands. And I've got evidence pertaining to that. If you read our website, you'll see just how frequent it can be. Then you've got problems with the slave community. 1 million Christian slaves in brick kilns, having signed a contract with a thumbprint because only 7% of Christians attain an adequate level of literacy. Where do we start? Textbooks, yes, without a doubt. They demonise, they caricature, they label Christians as spies for the West. So immediately it creates an anathema status for Christians. They're pariahs in their own country. They're hated by the Muslim majority. The lack of resolving this, the allowance for this to continue has meant that after generation, the hatred has become inculcated. And what you're seeing is that hatred that was there in the beginning magnified because the education system has been allowed to breed hatred throughout Muslim society, and that's towards all minorities, don't get me wrong, but Christians are definitely being the biggest targets, because when the Jews left during the Arab-Israeli wars, the first target became the Christians. The government has to do something about that education system. You have to teach people at a very young age, grassroots. Teach them at a young age, get them to understand the contributions made by Christians, and get them to understand that people of all faiths should have an equal status. You need to, the blasphemy laws of Pakistan, in my opinion, have to be abrogated. The government of Pakistan will say it's impossible, but then at least reform them. Every time a reform goes through, they give in to the extremists, and reforms that are ratified in Parliament, so passed through Parliament, are not ratified by the Senate House, and that's half your problem. They have to go through, they have to be ratified, changes have to be made, especially in how blasphemy allegations are enacted upon by the police. For instance, this 9-year-old in Quetta, who was only released after Muslims got involved, because at the end of the day, a Christian witness is a tenth of that of a Muslim, and that's because of Sharia law. They need to move away from Sharia law. They need to change the Islamic State of Pakistan, change that constitution, make it fairer. Don't label Islam as the national faith. Yes, the country was there to create a safe haven for Muslims, as far as I was concerned, not a theocratic state, although many would argue something very different.
Well, we have very few minutes, but very important question. You both are trying people to take from Thailand, Pakistani Christians from Thailand to Australia and to Hungary and to Poland. But my question to both of you, first Mr. Morris, and then what about the UK government? Why they are not taking people from there? What is the reason? Have you been able to discuss this problem with the UK parliamentarians?
We are hoping to have a meeting with the Secretary of State, and we will definitely bring this up. But the reasoning behind the UK government is that they, under the UNHCR, they take refugees from certain countries, and not from every country. That's what we've been told.
Who told you?
I was speaking to one of the MPs, and as far as she knew, that was the situation. That's why UK hasn't been taking the refugees from Thailand or Malaysia.
What do you say about this, Wilson?
It stems from the fact that the UK still doesn't recognise Pakistani Christians as being persecuted. They do with the Ahmadi faith. The Ahmadi faith, because of Section 298A of the Pakistani Penal Code, are seen as being institutionally persecuted. Pakistani Christians aren't, despite the fact that we're attacked more often, we're not. There's no law against being a Christian, but there is laws against being Ahmadi in Pakistan. There are other factors, so obviously, so that's something we've been challenging now. If you look at the current policy statement produced by the Home Office, you will see reference after reference from work that we've done with the BPCA, including private meetings. It's enhanced the ability for Christians to attain asylum to some extent, but not as far as we'd want. And at the moment, the areas which you almost guaranteed asylum would be if you're a convert in Pakistan to Christianity, or if you come from an evangelical background and have been persecuted as a consequence. So that might be an idea for people to think about that.
Sorry, Wilson, my question to Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris, if they do not recognize that Pakistani Christians are persecuted, then what is the reason that we have the APPG in UK?
We are trying to pressurize, and Jim is drafting some letters to the Home Office about that, and we'll definitely bring this up. That I think Wilson knows about that. There was a report which came out recently from the Home Office, and although they've changed their mind to some extent, but a lot more work needs to be done to the Home Office to make them aware of the persecution of the Christians. Like Wilson is saying, they don't regard the Christians as suffering. They say that Christians are suffering discrimination, but not persecution.
And before I come to you, Wilson, Mr. Morris, could you please tell our viewers, because of your thoughts and because of your feedback to the Home Office, they have made some amendment. Would you like to update our viewers what are these amendments and how these amendments will benefit to the Pakistani or the overall Pakistani?
Yes, there was a report created by the Home Office about the asylum seekers, and as you know, John, that I work as an interpreter, and I've come across several cases where the interpreters or the solicitors have been working against the Christian asylum seekers, and it's only after it's become very blatant and out that those people have been caught. And I've drawn the attention, and I've sent notes to the Home Office about that. And as a result of that, and the lobbying by the other groups like BPCA, the Home Office has made slight changes, and we've been hearing recently that they are a bit more sympathetic to the...
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yes, Wilson, 1 minute only.
Okay, regarding, Morris is quite right. They have made changes to the way that they interview and the questions that are asked. I've got a copy of that on my email, just received today. It was sent to me about 3 months ago, but we were meant to review it. So we've actually contributed to it because we've provided some learning notes to the head trainer for interpreters and interviewers at the Home Office. So we'll be making a few more amendments now after a review. The other factor I think I should add is that we've also worked towards, we're also having a meeting at the moment with the Home Office regarding the policy statement. Again, if you look at the policy statement, there will be references to work we've done, including private meetings. The next thing we're trying to do is trying to enhance the perception of persecution for Pakistani Christians. when we launched this report on the 1st of November at 2 o'clock, committee room 12, which entrance is free. It would be great if as many Pakistani Christians or supporters could come out as possible, to have a free copy of that report, but also to ensure that we can put some pressure on the MPs.
Yeah, thank you, Wilson. Viewers, we hope that you like our today's program. Wilson and Mr. Morris have updated many things, benefited to the Pakistani Christians and other minorities. Wilson has invited to everybody, all the Pakistani Christians, if you want to join us on 1st November? 1st November at 2 o'clock, committee number 2. It's a free entry there. We hope you like our program. Our bank details are there. It's not a commercial program. Dr. Peter, who loved the program, he is watching our program, and we pray for him and for his family. They have started, especially for our community, 7 or 8 years back. This program is continued. This is not funded by anybody. We need your support. Without your support, we cannot present these programs. If you want to support us, our bank details are there. We are not asking for 50 pounds or 100 pounds. We are asking if you can donate 10 pound or 20 pound. We welcome all the donations you do. And in the end, I would like to, but I would request, Wilson, you were there. You told me that you prayed for the Australian Parliament. I would like you to pray for all the minorities and all the persecuted people, no matter who they are. Please.
Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to come together, Lord, and to worship in your name, Lord. We pray, Lord, for these freedoms to be returned to those victims in Iraq, in Syria, in North Korea, everywhere where Christians are being persecuted, Lord. We pray for a change to the situation in Pakistan, Lord. We know, Lord, that through you all things are possible, and trust this. Lord, I pray that when I take my trip to Iraq in the next month or so, that you protect me, Lord, while I'm out there, Lord, and help me to show solidarity with those victims in the Christian camps outside the UNHCR camps. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Viewers, thank you very much for watching, and thank you for supporting us. God bless all of you.